Who would think that this world was at its end, and its fate belongs to you, my friend.
Testing.
Whoa.
Testing.
Yeah.
Testing. Hello, hello, hello. A quick sound test. Hello, hello, hello. Quick sound test. All right. I'm your host, Crafty Andy. Main channel is the Crafty Arts shows. When all this stuff gets done, that's where it gets posted, along with the WeirdZoRs channel. So we're gonna get painting today. Hey, Dalen. All right. Oh, nice. Icebox. Oh yeah, yeah, icebox. Ice cream cake. Okay. I was trying to figure out what the hell to do with this. On. Oh, so she treats the day pretty special then, huh? Uh-huh. And it still crashes. Well, GoPro. GoPro's done.
What did you do today?
We didn't do anything special. And it's a work day, so. Biggest thing I did really was just send out a card to my sister because her birthday wasn't too long ago. A little gift and, letting them know that I think about them.
I have the day off.
Yeah, I guess for us, because of our all our hobbies and stuff like that, we don't get too wrapped up in a lot of the holidays, except for like maybe Halloween, and Thanksgiving, visiting family, and Christmas, the usual bits. Late here. Yeah, my buddy decided to contribute to my endeavors. One of my best friends sent me a. Well, let's see. Let's bring.
I was in work.
Few people I know hardly had any trick-or-treaters last year, so I wonder if that's how it's going to be. Is the next podcast? Oh. I have no idea. Yeah. Somebody sent me this baby. Dial and Howl Movie Light. From God knows when. It doesn't even have a ground for the plug. This thing, once I turn it on, the heat is instant. Oh, right. See? That's a little too much. Too much overkill for it. Where the core wasn't getting. Yeah, now I have no excuse for any kind of fill issues when it comes to filming. Yeah, as far as like everyone's doing like the live stream things, it's going to be mainly focused on the editing, playing scripts and stuff like that. The Human Watch thing is fun, but I'd rather have like a set schedule or set a line of news to go over. I think that's going to be what's taking off next. All right. Let's see. I want to do something with these plants in the background. I make them a pinkish. Let's do some magenta. See what happens when we add some orange to it. Then bottom left here. Right. Alrighty.
let me call in. I'm calling you on Discord.
What? Oh, okay, you got a mic. I don't know if I'm logged in Discord. I know I am downstairs. Screen's probably there. I do not have headphones for this setup. Give me some. Alright. Testing.
Testing. Testing. Yeah, Discord isn't though.
There we go. Now it's working.
Can I call?
Sure, go ahead. One of the first callers. Hello. I see you lighting up for audio, but I'm not hearing it.
Hello?
There, now I can hear you.
Oh, let me call back.
Now I got you. I switched to Discord to headphone mode.
Oh, okay. Okay.
How's your Valentine's going? So you had a big plan.
Chat is so delayed. Your stream is so delayed. Things are going good.
Yeah, I probably should mess with the latency settings on there. I don't know, because it always seems like it's always a minute and a half behind. Either that, or it could just be Ohio. Whatever internet provider we have.
Oh, okay. I kind of sound like Kyle Rittenhouse a little bit. Some people said I sound like a Kyle Rittenhouse.
You'll say I sound like Kyle Rittenhouse? Or you sound like... Good old Kyle.
No, me.
Oh. Really, like by the sound of your voice, or just by the way, the things that you say? I have no idea, because I haven't heard Kyle Rittenhouse. I didn't really follow that trial a lot.
The sound of my voice.
Yeah. I wouldn't be able to tell you. Not that it would matter. Kyle Rittenhouse is his own guy.
What you drawing?
Ratchet and Clank, I got a commission from a friend some time ago, so if you wanted a poster, I'm painting them up. After this is done, it's off to the kids' book.
Okay.
Now
What's the kids' book about?
So, without giving out too much away, because I'm working on it, it's about a couple of, some mice that reach paradise, what they think is paradise. And, a mysterious something is causing them to disappear.
Wait, what's the book called?
I don't have a title for it yet. It is untitled. In fact, actually, when I was talking to, some people, it's just to keep it under wraps until it's done.
But
The
how
idea
many
right
mice
now
are
is
in
to
it?
make a couple pages and send it out to publishers, and then see what they respond with. All these rules for it, like, oh, only make 2 pages for the book. Otherwise, if you make too many, then I think you're not busy enough. Okay, so I wrote an outline, and my sister's helping me out with a bit with it. We'll go from there. But yeah, it's a slow process. Carrying a job and everything else on top of that. Start you up. Or not. Just crash on me.
Like,
Needing to
you
GoPro.
didn't, like, let me know of the live stream or podcast or whatever.
What about that? I missed what you said.
I wanted to, like, see the podcast.
Oh. Wait, what podcast?
Oh, hold on, let me find it. I know I saw it. It was, Ice and Demons.
Oh, that. Yeah, that's gonna be that's our friend Max's thing though. So that's gonna be every Sunday at 7. He's the one running that. So yeah, the idea is that we'll be doing that every week. So yeah, every Sunday at 7 when we can get everyone together, as many people as we can get together. So yeah, that'll be the next session for our D&D game. Just messing around with some settings and setups and stuff like that right now. Hopefully we can get multiple cameras to work. Logitech for webcams seems to be pretty iffy with
Okay.
that. Yeah,
Well, I'm gonna hang up now.
Alright. Try and go over this grass just a little bit more. We'll go for the chomper bots in the background, work on Clank, Ratchet, and then the big guy, and then Ratchet. We're probably I'll probably do Clank and Ratchet, like, period. Once I get all the washes on here for like a base color, I'm gonna switch over. Oh yeah, there was a Senate hearing going on. Hold on. Kids safety.
Today, February 14th, is already the anniversary of two horrific mass shootings in Parkland, Florida, 5 years ago, and Northern Illinois University in DeKalb, 15 years ago. Now the friends and families of Michigan State students join in that grief. My heart goes out to them. Last Congress, this committee held 11 hearings on our nation.
Hours ago. Most Michigan State students barricade themselves. Can we just treat guns like we treat cars? That'd be kind of nice. Like, you know, demonstrate that you have knowledge of how a gun works. You know, here's the safety, here's the trigger, here's how you demonstrate gun discipline. You know, you don't point at anything unless you want it dead. Unless you intend on shooting it. You know, common sense stuff. Like, what if we treated cars like we treat guns, you know? Here's a car, here's a license, go drive. Oh, not even a license, never mind, you don't need a license to own a gun, really, so yeah, here's a car. Have fun, try not to kill anybody. It seems like to me there needs to be something done. Like, can we do anything? Yeah, I've been hearing this all my life. Like, way back in 1999, before that, even. I mean, 1999 was the, one of the tipping points because it happened in middle-class America instead of, like, Detroit and inner-city areas, like Chicago, for once. Like, oh my god. Mostly white suburban neighborhood, middle class, got a mass shooting. Oh man, now we gotta really actually like talk about this stuff. Now all of a sudden it's important. But anyways. Yeah, I've been hearing that shit all my life. I don't think they're gonna do anything. Let me, so let's see, what's this guy's story? What's this loser's story here? It's either he was actually suffering from mental illness, and like that Walmart shooter, where he thought like everyone was out to get him and he was doing God's work. Everyone hates me. I'm a lonely individual. I'm an incel. Like a bunch of other people have done not too long ago. I guess Elliot Rogers is what comes to mind. And then the other aspect is everything's fucked and there's nothing we can do. I want to wake up the world. I want to wake up America by killing them. Not realize that no matter what you do, the majority of people are not going to give a shit because a lot of this shit that's happening in the world in the grand scheme of things is out of our hands. We just got to roll with it. Be aware of it. I think it's very helpful to one's psyche to be aware of it, but also don't expect to be able to change anything unless you got billions of dollars.
Okay, what do we got here? Mass shooting and manhunt were a double trauma. Mass shooting and manhunt at Michigan State University.
Mic over. Let's track thing that's going on here. While to get over. So, what was the motive? Still investigating the motive. The gunman. Still trying to figure out what prompted Anthony. 43 years old. Okay. So what does this have to do with children? I mean, you know, internet safety for children. I would love to know. See how many views does this get? Like 3,000 views. All talk, no action. That sounds about right. That's my prediction of this hearing, is that there's going to be all talk and no action, just like with George Floyd. Like, they never talked about qualified immunity. 8 hours, by the way. This was an 8-hour meeting about George Floyd. They brought George Floyd's brother on after he was killed and all the riots settled and everything. Eventually, they talked about chokeholds and how sorry they were, and that's it. Nothing about qualified immunity. Nothing about civil forfeiture. Nothing about the standards for a lot of police departments who will not hire someone if they believe them to be too smart for the job. So, whatever.
Gun violence epidemic. The Senate passed the most significant gun safety reform in nearly 30 years. But it's not enough. We have more to do. We've lost 5,200 200 Americans to gunfire already this year, and we're only halfway through.
No closed captions.
We were able to come together on a bipartisan basis last year to close gaps in our law to help reduce shootings. We need to continue the efforts in this committee and this Congress, and I'll work to do so. We owe that to the families and communities who have lost so much. Today, the Senate Judiciary Committee will focus on an issue that impacts every family, keeping our kids safe in the internet age. This little device here is an amazing source of information and communication, but it also has some properties, which we'll discuss today, that are not obvious as you glance at it. Why is it that children who can't really walk on their own, maybe not even talk yet, can operate one of these?
They can't. What gives you that idea?
There is a captivation that's taking place there.
No, keyboard's way too far away.
That continues. It is addictive, we know that, and we also know that it's threatening, and we're going to hear some stories today, tales of terrible results of communication through this device. The online world offers tremendous opportunities and benefits, but it's a serious risk and danger to our kids. In almost every aspect of the real world, child safety is a top priority. We lock the door and teach our kids not to talk to strangers. But in the virtual world, criminals and bullies don't need to pick a lock or wait outside the playground to hurt our kids. They only have to lurk in the shadows online of Facebook and Snapchat. In those shadows, they can bully, addict, or sexually exploit our kids right in our own homes. I'd like to turn to a brief video at this point about the risks our children face.
A new report points to teens.
Is that my audio or is that theirs?
At 2022.
Use of social media and smartphones as a potential cause of mental distress.
The American Academy of Pediatrics and the American Academy of Child Health and Psychiatry declared a national mental health emergency. This is a phenomenon that we haven't seen before.
In 5th grade, literally every single one of my classmates had a phone at that time.
Right.
YouTube. Like, I couldn't live without it.
Social media is its own world.
Increasingly, we're leaving a trail of digital crumbs as we go through life because the internet's becoming the basis for social discourse, for commerce, for healthcare, for entertainment.
Mr. Zuckerberg, would you be comfortable sharing with us the name of the hotel you stayed in last night?
No.
I think that may be what this is all about.
Any society that fails to protect its children has lost their way.
We are the Phoenix 11.
Sexually abused as children, reduced to child sex abuse images,
and stripped of our dignity and humanity. We are survivors of sexual torture,
child rape, erotic photo shoots,
pedophile sleepovers,
elementary school sex shows,
streaming BDSM,
and twisted sexual desires,
whose digital images were trafficked worldwide.
Hear our voice.
See our strength.
Answer our call. We will not be stopped. We will not be silent.
Exploitation of children is an urgent growing threat. A report last year from Pew Research found that nearly half of American teens report being harassed or bullied online. Nearly half. As too many families know, cyberbullying, which is often relentless, cruel, and anonymous, can lead to tragic results. Social media can also cause a variety of mental health problems.
I mean, why are kids on social media anyways? Be like an 18 and up thing. I mean, I'm not too keen on the whole idea of like real ID or whatever, but I would say maybe not legislated, but there needs to be more of an encouragement to yeah, kids online on social media, because like a lot of the stupid stuff you would do in like high school and middle school or whatever kind of just stays there. Like there's a whole bunch of shit I can't remember probably at this point that if it was said or done and like recorded and posted online, just sets you up for that kind of mass mob harassment for whatever reason. You get into a fight, there's always someone there with a camera phone that's going to post it online. That person got their ass beat is going to be drawn to look at it. Or get it sent to them by some supposed friend or enemy. Alright. Just let those dry. Let's get not good.
And teenagers, including anxiety, depression, stress, body image issues. This has been well documented, and the big tech companies know it. But despite all these known risks and harms, online platforms are doing everything they can to keep our kids' eyes glued to the screens. In the process, they're vacuuming up tons of data they can use to build profiles and target our kids with even more ads and content. It's a lucrative business at the expense of our kids' privacy, safety, and health. We don't have to take it. Today we'll hear
We're
from
not
outstanding
gonna
panel
take
witnesses about
it.
the challenges to protecting kids online and the steps we in the Senate and this committee can take.
We're
to help.
just gonna
I want to
sit
thank our
here
witnesses, Kristen
and
Bride and Emma
whine.
Lemke, who have been personally impacted by this issue. They speak on behalf of many others, and they advocate for change to help spare others what they and their families have gone through. Thank you both for being here today. I want to acknowledge Rose Brownstein from Chicago, who is in the audience. She lost her son Nate to suicide last year after he was viciously bullied over Snapchat and other social media platforms. Ms. Brownstein, I'm sorry for your loss. We're also joined by experts representing the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, law enforcement, the American Psychological Association, and the advocacy organization Fair Play. The big tech platforms are not here today, but don't worry, they'll have their chance. We'll invite their leaders to appear before this committee soon to discuss how they can be part of the solution instead of the problem. Today's discussion builds upon years of important work by this
I
committee.
mean, a lot of this is just
Ranking Member
coming
Graham
down
held
to like,
important
why are you
hearings
letting
on
your
this
kids
issue
on
when he
this
chaired the
shit?
committee. I thank him for his partnership in organizing today's hearings. We consider it a bipartisan call to action. There are a
Especially the
number of
ones that are
worthwhile
dumb enough to
legislative
like
proposals
put their
to
real
protect our
names
kids,
online
such
and
as
their
the Earn
age
It
and
Act,
everything.
which enjoys strong bipartisan support in this committee. Additionally, for months
That's
I've been
always, that
working
seems
on
like a new
comprehensive bill
thing.
to close the
I blame Facebook for that, for forcing the real name thing on everybody. I always joke and say that I was 18 for 6 years of my life. When I hit 12, and I occasionally got access to the internet through friends and the library, I was 18. As far as anyone else was concerned online. Not that I was like chatting with anybody, but you know, that's how it was. 18. From 12 to 18 to 17, I mean. 12 to 17. I was 18. I add some blue to it to distinguish it from Link's color, because he's silver.
gaps in the law and crack down on the proliferation of child sex abuse material online, the Stop CSAM Act. Today I'll be releasing a discussion draft of this
It's already
legislation,
illegal.
and I hope to move forward with it soon.
Are you
I
going to
also
make it
want to
double
acknowledge
illegal?
nations here now, both senators are here now, Senators Blumenthal and Blackburn of this committee, who've been leaders on this issue in another committee, the Commerce Committee, for a long time. I look forward to hearing our witnesses' ideas for reform, and I hope they can provide the basis for advancing legislation. Like we do in the real world, we need to protect our kids in the virtual world. This is not a partisan issue. It's an issue that keeps parents and children up at night. It deserves the attention of this committee and this Congress, and it deserves action. I now turn to the ranking member, Senator Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One, I want to congratulate you for calling this hearing. It couldn't come at a better time. It's a great panel. I want the people testifying to understand that we're all listening to you, that all of our ears are open and our hearts are open to try to find solutions. This is the one thing I think unites most Americans, is that most of them feel helpless. The American consumer is virtually unprotected from the adverse effects of social media. That needs to, and I think will change. How do you protect the consumer?
Just stay off social media. That's like the majority of internet users are not on social media at all. The majority of internet users Do not even mess with that shit. That's why people even joke that Facebook and Twitter and shit like that, when it comes to like representation of whatever the majority might be thinking, is just not real. Now it's great that it gives minorities a voice, people who would otherwise not be heard. But at the same time, the majority ain't using it. Da, 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 da. Yeah, I'm trying to find that status, but all I'm finding is like there's more than let's see. Yeah, I'm saying it's 4.4 billion users. That's just users. People have multiple accounts. God, the global population is no, stop. That's the other thing that kind of inflates the number. Oh, maybe not. I guess I was wrong. According to a lot of this data I'm looking at, it's 96%, 92% of internet users now use social media. According to data reportal. Oh, and now it's going from 4 billion to 5 billion. I don't think anyone knows. Like, if they're counting like all the user accounts that are just dead, remade, multiple accounts, come on. Here we go. Your research. 2021. Alright, when Pew Research began tracking social media adoption in 2005, 5% of American adults used at least one of these platforms. 72%. Oh, maybe not. Well, maybe not. I can just stop with that statistic from now on. Alright. Alright, correction in order. Let's see. I need a reference for Clank. Ratchet and Clank. Wait, I got my pictures. Where are you, Ratchet? There you are. Definitely got more of a silver look to him. We'll keep that. Let these guys, I'll put some blue in there, lighten them up a bit. But never mind then. More than half of people on the internet use social media. Anyway, that's 2 corrections I've had this couple days. First one is a lot of people reporting on this bill in Iowa that's supposed to get rid of child labor laws, but it turned out it doesn't. Bunch of people writing articles about it, not looking into it, I guess. Up that one. Off my brush. He should be darker anyways.
Well, you have regulatory agencies that protect our food and our health in general. In this space, there are none. You have statutory schemes to protect the consumer from abuse. In this space, there are none. You can always go to court in America if you feel like you've been wronged, except here. So the American consumer is virtually unprotected from the abuses of social media. And of all Americans, I think young people are the most exposed here. Parents feel helpless. There's somebody affecting your kids you'll never see, and a lot of times it's a machine. Who's watching the machine, if at all? And the Surgeon General issued a report that's pretty damning about the business model is to get people to watch things as much as possible, whether or not those things are good for you. They make money based on eyeballs and advertising. There is no regulatory agency in America with any meaningful power to control this. There are more bills being introduced in this area than any subject matter that I know of. All of them are bipartisan. So I want to add a thought to the mix, Mr. Chairman. I'm working with Senator Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts. We have pretty divergent political opinions, except here. We have to do something.
One of the things they just need to look at is
We're going to approach this from consumer protection. We're going to look at a digital regulatory commission that would have power to shut these sites down if they're not doing best business practices to protect children from sexual exploitation online. There are 21 million episodes last year of sexual exploitation against children. It was 1,114,000, I think, in 2014. This is an epidemic. It is a mental health crisis, particularly for young teenage girls, and we have no system in place to empower parents and empower consumers to seek justice, to fight back, and protect themselves. That's going to change in this Congress, I hope. So, Mr. Chairman, I look forward to working with you. I know Senator Blackburn's been very involved in the privacy space. I work with Senator Blumenthal and the Earn It Act. So we're going to work together the best we can to find solutions
after them when
to
it comes to
empower
that sort of
consumers
thing?
who are pretty much at the will of social media. And some people are having their lives ruined. It's now time for us to act.
Thanks, Senator Graham. I'm going to ask our two colleagues, Senator Blumenthal and Senator Blackburn, to give brief opening remarks. As I mentioned earlier, they've both been pioneers in the subject matter. Senator Blumenthal.
I hope
Thanks very much, Mr.
there's some
Chairman,
arrest
and,
over
I
that
wanna
fucking
quickly
Boston
thank you,
Children's
not only
Hospital
for
bomb
having this
threat
hearing,
that
but your
happened
very
not too long
important
ago
interest and work
because of people
on
like Matt
protecting
Walsh
kids online. And I'm
saying
grateful
that
to
they were
Senator
actually
Graham
mutilating children in
for
that
his
hospital.
partnership on the Earn It Act. This cause
Actually just
is
making
truly
shit up.
bipartisan, which
Of course,
Senator
GoPro, you
Blackburn
gotta
and I
crash.
think are showing in real time.
Okay, I'm
here,
about to like
the work
scrap
that we're doing
this.
together. The Earn It Act
Grab
can
my
be a
husband's
meaningful step
GoPro.
toward reforming this unconscionably excessive Section 230 shield to big
Tired
tech
of this thing crashing.
accountability.
Tired of this thing
I think we need to be
setting.
blunt from the beginning, because we know
GoPro
right
is
now
done.
the central truth. Big tech has relentlessly, ruthlessly pumped up profits by purposefully exploiting kids' and parents' pain. Young people like Emma Lemke have been victims of big tech's hideous experiment, as President Biden rightly called it. Parents like Kristen Bride have lost beautiful children like Carson. Parents whose tears and raw grief as you came to see me in my office have moved me with heartbreaking power. But beyond heartbreak, what I feel is outrage. Outrage at inaction. Congress's
What about the people that perpetrate it? I mean, what's the law gonna be? The thing that always makes me nervous about these sorts of things is just the idea that they can like legislate people like me out of existence. Like if this was in the 90s, homosexual content, trans content be on the fucking chopping block when it comes to this shit. Kids are being exposed to the homosexuals online. They'd be well, they'd probably do it now already, but I mean back then they would just be like, oh, yep, here's Crafty Andy online painting pictures. He's often admitted to being a queer, therefore he's manipulating his audience and indirectly saying that it's okay to be queer, therefore he's corrupting our youth and he must be stopped. So this new law, Stop the Homo Act, will prevent anyone online from expressing abnormal sexual preferences to people under the age of 25 on the internet. Something along those lines. Because I just picture that's how it would happen. I would just like to see more accountability when it comes to a lot of these talking heads. These millionaires that are paid by billionaires. And yeah, I don't mind YouTube and Facebook and them getting sued either. I don't mind that at all. Or the fact that they allow these, they selectively enforce their rules. I just watched a channel not too long ago get terminated for quote-unquote hate speech, which he never talks about, and was just talking about TV shows. All the while, someone like Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro get to keep their channel just fine. And talk about how queer people are grooming their kids and turning them trans. Somehow trans is only 2% of the population, if not less. And yet, and at the same time, it's an epidemic. But COVID's not an epidemic, though. That was just something completely made up, according to some of these people. Why do I got a Twitch notification? Get out of here. Someone's streaming. Ridiculous. Alright, I'm going to... Fuck this. I'm grabbing my other GoPro. This thing... Now you want to work? Now you want to turn on and just start recording for no reason. Okay. Gonna work? Grabbing the other GoPro. I'll be back. Done. I'm done with this thing. Alright. Be right back. Wow, friggin'. Tax is coming up. Paint off. All right, let's see if there's anything more interesting in this guy. I'm going to fast forward. I'll get this ready.
To pass the bill that you advanced courageously and eloquently, the Kids Online Safety Act. Outrage at big tech, pillaging the public interest with its armies of lobbyists and lawyers, despite their pledges of collaboration.
Yeah, well, every industry has lobbyists at this point.
Relive the pain and grief that break our hearts and should finally be a moral imperative to action. We came so close last session. We need to seize this moment. We face a public health imperative, not just a moral reckoning. Our nation is in the midst of a mental health crisis. If you have any doubt about it, read the latest CDC survey that says 3 out of 5 girls in America experience deep depression, sadness, and helplessness that drives many of them to plan suicide. It's a public health emergency, egregiously and knowingly exacerbated by big tech, aggravated by toxic content on eating disorders, bullying, even suicide, driven by big tech's black box algorithms, leading children down dark rabbit holes. We have to give kids and parents, yes, both kids and parents, the tools, transparency, and guardrails they need to take back control over their own lives. And that is why we must and we will double down on the Kids Online Safety Act. After
I'm so glad I
5
sped this up.
extensive hearings last session with Senator Blackburn at our Commerce Consumer Protection Subcommittee, and I thank Senator Maria Cantwell for her leadership. After deeply painful conversations with young people and parents like Emma and Kristen, after testimony from brave whistleblowers like Frances Haugen, who presented documents, not just personal anecdotes, but smoking gun proof that Facebook calculatingly drove toxic content to draw more eyeballs, more clicks, more dollars, more profits. After Facebook hid this evidence from parents, even misled us in Congress.
It's more along the lines of that's the
It's
thing
Big
that
Tobacco's
draws people
playback
in.
and playbook all over again. The evidence of harm is heartbreakingly abundant, beyond any reasonable doubt.
For some reason,
Action
negative
is
content's more
imperative
popular
now,
than
and I think
positive ones.
These brave victims at our hearing ought to provide the impetus and momentum. Right now, urgently, the Kids Online Safety Act can be a model for how bipartisan legislating can still work, a message to the public that Congress can still work. We need to reform Section 230. Senator Graham and I are working on the Earn It Act. I commit that we will work on major Section 230 reform, and it will be bipartisan. This mental health crisis will persist, take more young lives, unless Congress cares more about the Kids Online Safety Act than it does about big tech. It's urgent that we move forward, and I am haunted by what one parent told me, and all of us, in advocating for the Kids Online Safety Act. She said, Congress must act. It's a powerful call to action. And she asked, how many more children have to die before we make them a priority?
Lots.
Now is the time. Let's pass it.
500,000, 222, and 5. That's how much. That's how many.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Senator Blumenthal.
Need to
Senator
pass
Black.
before we do something.
Thank
There
you,
we go.
Mr. Chairman. Thank
my
you
guess.
for calling the hearing today. I appreciate that you and Senator Graham are turning attention to this. As many of you in the audience know, this is something that Senator Blumenthal and I have worked on for quite a period of time. We started on this about 3 years ago. And what you saw over the last couple of years was a series of hearings, and Kristen and Emma and others who came in to tell their stories and to provide us with information and to walk us through what was happening. So we have heard from parents and kids and teachers and pediatricians and child psychologists who are all looking at us and saying, this is an emergency. And anybody who doubts it, Senator Blumenthal just held up. And I have also the CDC report that just came out where you talk about youth risk behavior. And guess what? Social media is one of those items that is a part of that risk. And we have just taken to heart, we've listened to not only the testimony in the hearings, but to many of you that came separately to our offices to talk to us and to say, this is our experience. And we want somebody to know about this because something needs to be done. It is almost as if these social media platforms are operating in the days of the Wild West. And anything goes. And when these children are on these platforms, they're the product. They're the product. Their data is taken. That data is monetized. And then it is sold to the advertisers who are going to feed more information to these children. And we've come up with this Kids Online Safety Act. Now, we got close last time, and we almost got it through the finish line, and we didn't. So, new Congress, a new start on this, and we're so pleased
I'm always going to have contention with all this shit. I think. When I hear like, yeah, it's like the Wild West, I'm like, yeah, I know, isn't that great? Anything you want on the internet. For the most part. But unfortunately, that means that people can do anything they want. Double-edged sword. The general attitude from these people too, whenever they get like whenever someone gets targeted for harassment, and it's like 100 pizzas ordered to their house, it's like, well, that's your fault. That's what happens when you put yourself out there. It's like, wow, man, yeah, you really you guys really stuck it to the man. You stuck it to those in power, didn't you? Finding someone you didn't like because they were weird or they said some stupid shit. Driving them offline. Come on, what's going on here? I gotta keep it. Separate.
With Commerce Committee, and we hope to get it on. There's some things that ought to be a given. These social media platforms ought to be required to make these platforms safer by default. Not just safer if you go through the 20 next steps, but safer by default. That ought to be required. We should also have a requirement that these platforms have to do independent audits, go through independent audits, not their research. Now, some of you have said in these hearings we've done, and you've heard these social media companies say, well, we're always auditing ourselves. But whoever knows what that audit shows? Not you, not me. Nobody knows. They like to keep that to themselves because, as Senator Blumenthal has said, eyeballs on that site for a longer period of time, it's more money, money, money in the bank. And who pays that price? Our kids. Our kids. Our legislation was supported by 150 different groups. Now, in a time where politics is media platform.
In his role, Mr. Golan regularly speaks to parents, professionals, and policymakers about how to create a healthier environment. After we swear in the witnesses, each will have 5 minutes for opening statements. Then senators will have rounds of questions. So first, let me ask that all the witnesses stand to be sworn in. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yeah.
Let the record reflect the witnesses have answered.
But why did they have to raise their hand, by the way? Was there some magic behind that gesture? If they didn't raise their right hand, would that, would God come down and be like, oh, sorry, doesn't count? And all that talk about they need to be audited and held accountable and everything is like, that's great. How come you guys don't hold the fossil fuel industry accountable? The creditors, the credit companies that fucked over the housing market, the landlords that fuck over people with the rent. We're just gonna focus on like this whole social media bullshit. Like this is where we draw the line. You think after the whole Alex Jones suing thing, we should be seeing like the Daily Wire have their own lawsuit come up? Or the fucking Boston Children's Hospital being threatened with bombs. You can't. The whole thing about like free speech is like you shouldn't just be able to you shouldn't be allowed to just lie. The ruling on Alex Jones is pretty good at setting that kind of precedent. You know, if someone wants to take advantage of that. Sorry, it's already illegal to make death threats. My thought is that they're just going to try to make pass some legislation so they could subpoena these companies a little bit easier. Someone's talking about like some kind of anti-government shit. Changing the establishment, overthrowing the establishment, anything like that, they can go after them a lot easier. I think that's where it's going to come down to. All under the guise of we got to protect the children. We do everything we can to protect our children, except talk to them, figure out what's going on in their lives. We just give them our iPads, and when they kill themselves 5 years later, we're just like stunned and wonder what happened. Did everything except talk to them. Now for me, you know, my parents would try to talk to me once in a while. I always brush them off. How's your day today? Good. Good school? Nothing. Back in my room I go. Play some Sega. And, you know, if they try to press further, I just get irritated. So, I don't know. I would say, hindsight, maybe when it comes to that sort of thing, just try to talk to your kids regardless of how they might be feeling at the moment. Deal with their little issues and anger. Sit them down, be like, hey, you know, you can tell me anything. I'll still love you. Doesn't matter what's going on. Just tell me. All right. Something. Granted, for me in my situation, it was mainly like almost solitary confinement growing up for the first like 9 years of my life. Yeah, I had a friend. I had a couple friends I could hang out with, but most of the time I was just in my room with a TV, game system with a few games. That was it. It fucks with your head a little bit. Yeah, I looked up. That's essentially what solitary confinement usually is. It's just a room, sometimes without a TV, sometimes with no entertainment. So you know, I'm not comparing the two. I'm not saying they're equal. There was some degree of that going on. My younger years growing up. That fed into my paranoia I used to have as a kid. Stupid kid logic shit. I'm just skeptical when it comes to this government trying to legislate anything like this. Problem when you have these big ass nation states like this is that you can never trust that they have your interest. They have corporate interests. That's what they have to cater to. That's it. Alright, we got the one tail and the one that's getting kicked in the face. The one on Ratchet's. That's so nice having a GoPro that doesn't just crash every time. Hang on to mine for a little longer till a little bit. Gosh. Yeah, I don't know. That sound promising. Whoop.
Ms. Bride, please, if you will, start our round.
Thank you, Chairman Durbin, Ranking Member Graham, and members of the committee. My name is Kristen Bride. I am a survivor parent and social media reform advocate and member of the Bipartisan Council for Responsible Social Media. I am testifying here today to bring a face to the harms occurring every day resulting from the unchecked power of the social media industry. This is my son, Carson Bride, with the beautiful blue eyes, an amazing smile, and great sense of humor, who will be forever 16 years old. As involved parents raising our two sons in Oregon, we thought that we were doing everything right. We waited until Carson was in 8th grade to give him his first cell phone, an old phone with no apps. We talked to our boys about online safety and the importance of never sending anything online that you wouldn't want your name and face next to on a billboard. Carson followed these guidelines, yet tragedy still struck our family. It was June 2020. Carson had just gotten his first summer job making pizzas, and after a successful first night of training, he wrote his upcoming work schedule on our kitchen calendar. We expressed how proud we were of him for finding a job during the pandemic. In so many ways, it was a wonderful night, and we were looking forward to summer. The next morning, I woke to the complete shock and horror that Carson had hung himself in our garage while we slept. In the weeks that followed, we learned that Carson had been viciously cyberbullied by his Snapchat friends, his high school classmates who were using the anonymous apps YOLO and LMK on Snapchat to hide their identities. It wasn't until Carson was a freshman in high school that we finally allowed him to have social media, because that was how all the students were making new connections. What we didn't know is apps like YOLO and LMK were using popular social media platforms to promote anonymous messaging to hundreds of millions of teen users. After his death, we discovered that Carson had received nearly 100 negative, harassing, sexually explicit, and humiliating messages, including 40 in just one day. He asked his tormentors to swipe up and identify themselves so they could talk things out in person. No one ever did. The last search on his phone before Carson ended his life was for hacks to find out the identities of his abusers. Anonymous apps like Whisper, Sarhaha, and Yik Yak have a long history of enabling cyberbullying and leading to teen suicides. The critical flaws in these platforms are compounded by the fact that teens do not typically report being cyberbullied. They are too fearful that their phones, to which they are completely addicted, will be taken away, or that they will be labeled a snitch by their friends. YOLO's own policies stated that they would monitor for cyberbullying and reveal the identities of those who do so. I reached out to YOLO on 4 separate occasions in the months following Carson's death, letting them know what happened to my son and asking them to follow their own policies. I was ignored all 4 times. At this point, I decided I needed to fight back. I filed a national class action lawsuit in May 2021 against Snap Inc., YOLO, and LMK. We believe Snap Inc. suspended YOLO and LMK from their platform because of our advocacy. However, our complaint against YOLO and LMK for product liability design defects and fraudulent product misrepresentation was dismissed in the Central District Court of California last month, citing Section 230 immunity. And still, new anonymous apps like NGL and Send It are appearing on social media platforms and charging teens subscription.
The problem is that kind of need those apps to be kind of need certain apps to be, allow anonymity. Depending on what place you live, country or state, city, you might want to be anonymous. You might not want people to know where you are, that you're queer, or you're not conforming to the gender norms in some way. Now, do you give her this? Is that, yeah, people could be identified easily online like that. I don't know. I think people will be a little more reluctant to it. I just don't know if it'd be worth it. Because I don't know what it's like to be a teenager and have an endless amount of online harassment. Like the closest I ever got to that was like I heard someone made a website that like listed off a bunch of quote unquote losers, and I was on that list, but I didn't have an internet connection, so I couldn't even look for it if I even wanted to. That was when I was in the 8th grade. That's about it. That's the extent of my online harassment. I think I had a Facebook when late high school, I think, and just like neglected it for 5 years before actually using it. When I actually started talking to people and outside of my circle of friends and actually hooking up with furries and stuff. I know that's when I actually started using Facebook. I think I actually started using it more when the Social Network movie came out. That would have been around like 2009, 2010, I don't know, whenever that movie came out. I started using it a little bit more. But yeah, it fell to the wayside because Twitter and YouTube were a little more popular and more up my alley. Okay. We do now. Guess we'll turn our big boy here. Get some. Get the gold.
Throughout the history of YouTube, there's
to reveal the messenger or provide useless hints. I speak before you today with tremendous responsibility to represent the many other parents who have lost their children to social media harms. Our numbers continue to grow exponentially with teen deaths from dangerous online challenges, sextortion, fentanyl-laced drugs, and eating disorders. Let us be clear. These are not coincidences, accidents, or unforeseen consequences. They are the direct result of products designed to hook and monetize America's children. It should not take grieving parents filing lawsuits to hold this industry accountable for their dangerous and addictive product designs. Federal legislation like the Kids Online Safety Act, KOSA, which requires social media companies to have a duty of care when designing their products for America's children, is long overdue. We need lawmakers to step up.
But just, I don't know, keep your fucking kids off this shit, alright? Let us adults manage each other. Yeah, like Tucker's saying downstairs.
Put politics aside and finally protect all children online. Thank you for this opportunity, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Bride. Ms. Emma Lemke.
Hello, everyone. My name is Emma Lemke. I'm originally from Birmingham, Alabama, but currently I am a sophomore studying political science at Washington University in St. Louis. I am humbled and honored to be here today. I created my first social media account, Instagram, in the 6th grade. To as 12-year-old girl to 12-year-old me, this platform seemed almost magical. But as I began to spend more time online, I was met with a harsh reality. Social media was not magic. It was an illusion.
It's a fucking nightmare.
A product that was predicated on maximizing my attention at the cost of my well-being. As my screen time increased, my mental and physical health suffered. The constant quantification of my worth through likes, comments, and followers heightened my anxiety and deepened my depression. As a young woman, the constant exposure to unrealistic body standards and harmful recommended content led me towards disordered eating and severely damaged my sense of self.
What about magazines? Like teen bopper magazines and shit like that. And swimsuit magazines. Isn't that kind of like the same thing we're describing here? Doesn't that promote like an unrealistic body image and stuff like that back in the day? They even still have those? I think it's more along the lines of not trying to regulate this shit out, but teaching people how to like conduct themselves online better. I go under the philosophy that online comments, especially from strangers, do not count for shit. Like, in order to keep myself, my mind separated from any kind of, like, I don't know, loss of sleep, self-esteem, or whatever, that some anonymous, some anon person commenting on some shit of mine, like, who the fuck are you? Why should I give a shit? As far as, like, I don't know, body image, I mean, I guess it's just like it's not that much different than when you inundate yourself with a lot of movies and TV shows. It might give you a false sense of reality and how that shit works. How to find a relationship and how to function and everything. I mean, that's not too far different either, as far as what we're talking about here. Sorry that the Instagram promoted a bunch of swimsuit models for your feed. I guess. What do you want them to do? Want like a bunch of happy, random AI generated happy phrases and images to show up or something? You're beautiful just the way you are. Just a reminder. You know, we're showing you all these swimsuit models and showing you that the most popular people look according to the guidelines of what is beautiful. Remember, you're fine the way you are. We're gonna have a bunch of rich influencers come out with another It Gets Better campaign. It gets better, guys. It gets better. I was born in a semi-rich family that helped me get my movie career off. Now I'm a super rich family. Super rich movie star. It gets better. When you can pay for all your problems to go away.
But no matter the harm incurred, addictive features like autoplay and the endless scroll pulled me back into the online world where I continued to suffer.
Yeah, it can be
And there I
addicting.
remained for over 3 years, mindlessly scrolling for 5 to 6 hours a day. I eventually reached a breaking point in the 9th grade, and I began the long and difficult process of rebuilding my relationship with technology in a healthier way. Senators, my story is not one in isolation. It is a story representative of my generation, Generation Z. As the first digital natives, we have the deepest understanding of the harms of social media through our lived experiences. But it is from those experiences that we can begin to build the most promising solutions. It is only when young people are given a place at the table that effective solutions can emerge and
Oh yeah, and all the autoplay that you get from when you watch TV, and all these ads would come on, you know, going off the proper body image, and all the TV shows that would exist, the reality shows. Well, the more things change, the more they stay the same. I would love to see. Okay, so what do we gotta do? Yeah, what do you tell us? We gotta do something.
safer online spaces can be created. The power of youth voices is far too great to continue to be ignored. Through Log Off, I have engaged with hundreds of kids across the globe and who have shared their experiences of harm with me. I have listened as young people have told me stories of online harassment, vicious cyberbullying, unwanted direct messages. But most powerfully, I have heard as members of my generation have expressed concern not just for our own well-being, but for younger siblings, for cousins, and for all those to come after us. While our stories may differ, we share the frustration of being portrayed as passive victims of big tech. We are ready to be active agents of change, rebuilding new and safer online spaces for the next generation. 10 years from now, social media will not be what it is today. It will be what members of my generation build it to be. We want to build it differently. We want to build it right. I came here today as the representative for those young change makers.
Welcome to walkingoneggshells.com. If you say anything out of line, you will be permanently banned, your IP address will be blocked, and you will be receiving notice at your very home. Yes, here and welcome to walkingoneggshells.com. Any edgy content is not allowed. Everything is happy here. For every negative story. Oh man, I gotta see it now. Our app is designed to send you happy faces every 5 minutes. It just makes me think of these gates that the Chinese have, that you have to smile in a camera before they let you into work. You have to put on a smile. Put on a smile. Or the doors open. Tell me more.
To be the voice not just of those in my generation who have been harmed or who are currently struggling, but to be a voice for all of those 12-year-old girls yet to come. The genie is out of the bottle, and we will never go back to a time where social media does not exist.
And just wait till this fucking deepfake shit starts taking off more.
No mistake. Unregulated social media is a weapon of mass destruction that continues to jeopardize the safety, privacy, and well-being of all American youth. It's time to act. And I urge you, senators, to take meaningful steps to regulate these companies, not just for our generation and my generation, but with my generation. Integrating youth-lived experiences is essential in the regulatory process in getting it right. Thank you for having me here today.
Regulate them for what? With what?
Thank you, Ms. Lemke. Ms. DeLong.
Regulate them. How?
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Durbin, Ranking Member Graham, and members of the committee. My name is Michelle DeLon, and I am the President and CEO of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. NCMEC is a nonprofit organization created in 1984 by child advocates to help find missing children, reduce child sexual exploitation, and prevent child victimization. I'm honored to be here today to share NCMEC's perspective on the dangers that are facing children online and how we can work together to address these challenges.
Let me tell you some of the things I saw
We have
online
reached
when
an
I was a
inflection
kid.
point in efforts to combat online child sexual exploitation, and we need congressional intervention to pass legislation that I'll be speaking to today. Last year, NCMEC's cyber tip line received over 32 million reports. These reports contained over 88 million images and videos and other content related to child sexual exploitation. And to put these numbers into perspective, we're averaging 80,000 new reports each day. The internet is global, and unfortunately, so is this crime. 90% of the reports that we received last year related to individuals outside of the United States, and the remaining reports, about 3.2 million, related to U.S. individuals. The report numbers are staggering, but the quality of reports is often lacking, and there are significant disparities in how companies report. For instance, companies have no duty to report child sex trafficking or online enticement of children. Some companies choose not to report sufficient information for those cases to be properly assessed and investigated. And some companies choose not to submit actual images or the videos actually being reported, or any information that could be used to identify a suspect or a victim. And we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg.
Okay, now we're
Very
talking about
few
something
companies
real.
choose to engage in voluntary measures to detect known child sexual abuse material. And those who do proactively look for that make the most reports. Congress has the opportunity to send a powerful message to victims that they are not powerless to protect themselves, and when abuse imagery of themselves has been shared online. Currently, child victims have no recourse if a tech company takes no action to stop, remove, and report sexually explicit imagery in which they are depicted. At the core of NCMEC's mission is helping children and supporting survivors. And we do a lot to support survivors, but we need Congress to help address the complexities that survivors face in this space. The following legislative measures are urgently needed to support survivors. Laws that require that content seized by federal law enforcement from offenders be sent to NCMEC for victim identification efforts and supporting restitution efforts. Laws enabling child victims of extortion and enticement to have immunity when reporting their images to NCMEC. Laws enabling minor victims to have legal recourse. If
Yeah, that is a good point. If you get manipulated into sending explicit images of yourself as a minor, you yourself can be arrested and put on the sex offender register. Cops don't give a shit about context most of the time. They just care about convictions. But yeah, that's why 25% of people on the registry were put on there between the ages of 9 and 17. not exclusively shit because of that, but that's one of the reasons why I can end up on that list. Just explicit images of yourself, which is crazy. Like, that shouldn't be a factor if you're manipulated into sending shit out and being like, oh wait, fucked up. You should have no fear in finding someone of authority and reporting that shit. Here, now you have some reform that I can get behind. Unity for victims reporting themselves being exploited and whatever. Alright, so I started here. Now, guess what's going to happen? Tomorrow, your walk. Go tomorrow. I didn't. Figure out what to color this guy in a little more. Alright.
Knowingly facilitates the distribution of their sexually abusive imagery. Regulations to implement the remedies promised to survivors in 2018 when the Amy, Vicky, and Andy Act was passed by Congress. And laws to make sure that we are using the appropriate words when we're discussing these crimes. Child sexual abuse material, not child pornography. And while we struggle to address the current volume and complexity of online child sexual exploitation, additional threats to child safety online are occurring. When a platform implements end-to-end encryption, no one, not even the platform itself, has visibility into users exploiting children. We believe in a balance between user privacy and child safety. When tech companies implement end-to-end encryption with no preventive measures built in to detect known child sexual abuse material, the impact on child safety is devastating. Several of the largest reporting companies have indicated that they will be moving to default end-to-end encryption this year. We estimate that as a result, 2/3 of reports to the cyber tip line submitted by tech companies will go away. And these reports will be lost simply because tech companies have chosen to stop looking for the material. And we can talk about our lost report numbers, but behind every report is a child. And the abuse doesn't stop just because we decide to stop looking for it. We look forward to working with Congress and other stakeholders on solutions. In closing, NCMEC is proud to support many excellent legislative initiatives from last Congress, including the Earn It Act, the End Child Exploitation Act, and the Preventing Child Sexual Abuse Act. And we look forward to working with Congress to ensure the legislative measures become law in the current term. I thank you for the opportunity to appear before the committee to discuss the protection of children online. We're eager to continue working with this committee, survivors and their families, the Department of Justice, engaged tech companies, and other nonprofits to find solutions to these problems. Because like you, we believe that every child does deserve a safe childhood. I thank you and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr.
All right. Maybe I'll catch up on that later. This is crazy. Let's see. What is that? Humanist report? Yep, humanist report.
So the reason I'm making this video right now is because
the person who survived Sandy Hook's shooting is now survivor of the mass shooting in Michigan State. Yeah, I can only imagine how they'd fuck with your head.
It is almost 1 a.m. and I am currently directly across the street from where the shootings at Michigan State occurred. I am 21 years old, and this is the second mass shooting that I have now lived through. 10 years and 2 months ago, I survived the Sandy Hook shooting. And when I was crouched in the corner in school in Newtown, Connecticut on 12/14/12, I was hunched in the corner with my classmates for so long that I actually got a PTSD fracture in my L4 and L5 in my right lower back. I now have a full-blown PTSD fracture that flares up anytime I am in a stressful situation or anything occurs that's aggressive like that. The fact that this is the second mass shooting that I have now lived through is incomprehensible. My heart goes out to all the families and the friends of the victims of this Michigan State shooting. But we can no longer just provide love and prayers. It needs to be legislation. It needs to be action. It's not
I'm sorry
okay.
to laugh at that, but
we can no longer allow this to
when has
happen.
it ever worked?
We can no longer be complacent. I'll forever be Sandy Hook strong and forever be Spartan strong.
That TikTok is going viral because, as she eloquently explained, the MSU shooting that took place last night, where 3 people were killed and 5 more were injured, isn't her first mass shooting. She survived Sandy Hook as well. Now, what's astonishing is that this isn't the only MSU student to see a second mass shooting. One MSU student, Emma Riddle, tweeted, 14 months ago, I had to evacuate from Oxford High School when a 15-year-old opened fire and killed 4 of my classmates and injured 7 more. Tonight, I am sitting under my desk at Michigan State University once again, texting everyone, I love you. When will this end? Now, that's not all, because the auntie of 2 MSU students tweeted this. Active shooter on MSU campus reported 23 minutes ago, still roaming next door to my nephew's dorm. He has taken cover. I'm waiting to hear. The same nephew that was in the classroom next door to the active shooter at Oxford High School, November of 2021. Now, there's even more. As Insider reports, Jennifer Mancini, the mother of one MSU freshman, told the Detroit Free Press that she had just spent a year helping her daughter deal with losing 2 of her closest friends in the Oxford shooting, where she was a senior. She said that she had PTSD, Mancini said, of her daughter, the Detroit Free Press reported. She said she can't believe this is happening again. So think about how insane that is. For multiple MSU students, this is not the first mass shooting that they've lived through. That's where we're at in the United States. But it's not just students at MSU who happen to live through multiple mass shootings. Other individuals around the country have also experienced this. For example, 3 friends who survived the Las Vegas shooting in 2017, where 60 people were killed at a country music festival, ended up surviving another mass shooting just 2 years later in 2019 at the Gilroy Garlic Festival, where 3 people were killed by a mass shooter. Also, veteran Brian Kelly survived 2 mass shootings within the span of 1 year, the Las Vegas shooting and then the shooting in Thousand Oaks, California at Borderline Bar and Grill, where a gunman killed 11 people in 2018. Now, another man actually experienced the same 2 mass shootings, but wasn't as lucky as the last individual. He survived the Las Vegas shooting, but died in the shooting at Borderline Bar and Grill. The point is, mass shootings in the United States are so common that people are living through multiple mass shootings. That's where we're at. Now, let's get to some details about the MSU shooting. As the New York Times reports, the gunman first opened fire at Berkeley Hall, home to the university's College of Social Science, shortly before 8:30 p.m., killing 2 people. Chris Rosman, the interim deputy university police chief, said at a news conference on Tuesday morning. The gunman later moved to the Michigan State Student Union, a popular place for students to eat and study, where he killed a 3rd person. The 2 buildings, just minutes apart on Grand River Avenue, were both unlocked and open to the public. Not long after the shooting began, the university sent an email alerting students, many of whom were in dormitories, libraries, and other campus buildings, to shelter in place or evacuate safely while the authorities searched for the shooter. After a 3-hour manhunt, the university police said the gunman was found off campus around 11:30 p.m. and had died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Shelter-in-place orders were lifted and students quickly returned to their homes or were reunited with their families. Now, at the time that I record this, not much is known about the shooter or his motives, but he was reportedly a 43-year-old loner, and he does have ties to the community, but that's really all that we know at this point in time. And now, this is the part of the video where I, as a political commentator, am supposed to come up with solutions, but I'm not going to do that. We already know solutions. I'm not going to entertain the arguments from bad faith actors about, oh my God, why did this happen? Maybe it's mental health. Maybe it's violent video games. Maybe it's a lack of prayer in schools. Maybe it's a lack of security. We know why this keeps happening. It's because guns. We have more guns than people, and until Congress actually takes meaningful action to reduce the number of guns, then this will keep happening. Period. End of story. And we don't even have to come up with some original solution. We can just copy Australia's homework, because after a mass shooting in, I believe, 1996, they did gun reform and they haven't had a mass shooting since. So this isn't something that we need to keep pretending to feign ignorance over, or trying to have this conversation that isn't happening in good faith with the other side. We know why it's happening, and we know the solutions. It's a matter of whether or not we have the political will to implement the solutions. And obviously, we don't. So this will keep happening, and more people will experience multiple mass shootings so long as this continues to occur in this disgustingly violent country.
Thoughts and prayers. It's like when Biden came up there. Thoughts and prayers. Need to get some thoughts, get some prayers. At least 1,000 thoughts. No, 100,000 thoughts. Prayers. And we can sing us. We can like have Nancy Pelosi make a poem about it.
This is a building collapsing in Turkey, hours after a series of earthquakes and aftershocks on February.
Probably during the campaign, Biden will talk about like gun reform. Then when he gets in office, if he gets in office, nothing will happen. And vice versa for the rest. A 43-year-old one day decided, I'm going to go out with a bang. Pretty sure it's going to be not too long before these right-wing talking heads come out. They'll find some obscure tweet and claim the left is politicizing it already, as they always quote-unquote do. But they themselves aren't politicizing it, though. They'll just talk about something about, I don't know, how men are not men anymore, and how there's the trans agenda coming out. Therefore, that's why these shootings keep happening. They'll dismiss it some way. Alright. All I have time to do for today, fortunately, 8 hours right now. Hey, I go to do the job that pays the bills. At least pays some of the bills. I mean, my